starting, which is already passed, October 1st, any immigrant that wants to come to the United States through adjustment of status, whether it's employment, adjustment, whatever it is, they need to be vaccinated. If they're not vaccinated, that is a ground of inadmissibility, and there's no waiver. Um, Unless you're talking about religious exemption or medical exemption, which of course has to be real, not just made up, and with documentary evidence. Otherwise, you would be considered inadmissible. So I'm glad that U.S. immigration, has taken this step because it just makes people safer. As we know, in today's world, there are what seems to be a group of people, of anti-vaxxers, that are essentially stating that they'll quit their jobs unless they, or if they're forced to get vaccinated. And they use the same typical line, it's their body, their choice. They're not going to be forced to do anything. And, you know, at least with the immigrants, when this regulation was done, they can't argue stuff like that. They have to be able to get vaccinated, or they don't come in. What I don't understand with these anti-vaxxers who are making these arguments, like yesterday I saw on TV, some police officer was, his video went viral saying, "This is the last you're going to hear of me because I'm not getting vaccinated and I'm going to quit." Well, what went through my mind is good riddance, because he's a police officer and they go to the public. That's all they do. They go to the public. They go where their problems are. They fix, things that are happening in the public. They go into houses. They go buy houses with kids who have not been vaccinated. And I just can't understand if these police who are holding out getting vaccinated, if part of their duties are to protect the public, how can they possibly protect the public if they refuse to get vaccinated? They are literally walking into someone's house or near the public where they could infect someone, whether it be young or old, who eventually might end up in the hospital and might die. How are they protecting somebody in that regard? So for all the police who are using fear tactics now, saying, "We're not going to get vaccinated, and if you make us get vaccinated, we're going to quit, and then there's going to be a public safety issue." Well, there's already a public safety issue because you're not getting vaccinated. By not getting vaccinated, not only are you putting the people at risk whose places you are going to, whose establishments you are visiting to help protect the law, but there are variants that are ultimately going to be developed because you refuse to get vaccinated. And those variants are going to affect the people who followed the medical advice and who cared about other people and who did not act in a selfish manner, claiming that it's their right, their body. If somebody like Jeremiah Johnson, who lives in a cabin alone on a mountain, doesn't want to get vaccinated, I'm all for it, because he's not affecting anybody else. He's not making his decisions get other people sick, infected, and possibly dying. The older someone is, the more likely they are to get this particular COVID, and the more likely they're to end up in the hospital. I, I, it's unfathomable to me that the police officers who claim that they protect the public are going to put these older people at risk, because that's what they're doing. And it's not just them. It's like the airline pilots also. There was, I believe it was Southwest. They they were going to do some kind of strikeout or walkout because they were being ordered to be vaccinated. We all know that the plane, when it goes up in the air, is a bunch of recirculated air. So the pilots who won't get vaccinated, are putting every single person who's sitting on that plane, the passengers, the people who work on the plane, you're putting them all at risk because we're all breathing circulated air. And when you breathe out, which you could very well have COVID, you might end up getting somebody sick again, who might end up getting sick, going to the hospital, and dying because you, the pilot, do not want to get vaccinated. I don't understand how someone can be so selfish. It's sitting there and getting a shot in the arm. There's no difference between getting a measles shot, a polio shot, a TD, TDP shot, all the shots that are totally normal, and you're making an issue of this one, which happens to be the one that at the present time is the most infectious, and of which there have been over 750,000 people who have been killed. I'm sorry, I can't keep saying enough that I can't understand how someone in a position where they are with the public refuses to get vaccinated because they say it's their body, their choice. It's not if it affects somebody else. It's not if it's going to get someone else sick. If you want to stay at home and just sit there all day and night long and not get vaccinated, be my guest. If you want to travel the country and not go anywhere that any population exists, be my guest. But if you're going to be a pilot and you're going to be flying a plane that uses recirculated air to go through the entire plane, then you have a responsibility for the safety of the passengers of which you are flying. And not getting vaccinated is the opposite of that responsibility. There's also a group of nurses. There's a group of nurses who refuse to get vaccinated because they don't believe in the medical advice of all of the doctors and the scientists. Blows my mind. I cannot believe it. They even had nurses that were giving an interview. This particular nurse worked in the neonatal ICU. We're talking babies that were born premature that are on the cusp of life. And they are walking in there, not getting vaccinated, putting those babies at risk. How is that possible? And again, the nurses are saying, well, there's not going to be enough nurses, so if you make us get vaccinated, we're going to walk off. Well, you know what? You're already putting a bunch of people at risk. You're putting babies at risk, older people at risk, anyone who's in the hospital, you're putting at risk because you are not getting vaccinated. You, a nurse that is supposed to understand more than the average person about the medical advice and the science of this. Just can't believe it. And then there was a video I saw of some nurse who was all happy, jumping up and down, saying, I got my my religious exemption, and therefore I'm going to be able to go into the hospital without getting vaccinated. Why would you be happy about that? Why would you be happy that you, who are going to be with the public, and going to be serving people, helping people, are happy that you don't have to get vaccinated? You know that you're going to spread it. You know that at the hospital there's more instances of COVID than out of the hospital. You know that people are dying. How could you possibly be so selfish that you are not going to get vaccinated? So for all these groups of people who are trying to use fear to stop the mayors and the governors and everybody from issuing the proper orders and vaccine mandates, that's all it is fear, because they're already causing the problems. They're already putting people at risk. So if you, the nurses, the pilots, the policemen, the firemen, everybody in your groups who do not want to get vaccinated, you go ahead and walk off the job. Go ahead and make it safer for the public, because that's what it'll be. It will be safer, and they'll hire people who will get vaccinated and who will follow the medical advice. So, we started this whole conversation with the fact that it's now mandated for anyone who's immigrating to the U.S. Who wants to adjust status, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They will get vaccinated or they won't be able to get the green card, and how that is a very good thing. My hope is that all of the people in power will not let the anti-vaxxers who go near public people and who put them at risk because they won't get vaccinated, that they will not back down, will make them walk off the job. And if they want their jobs, they'll get vaccinated because it's good for them, it's good for the community, and it's good for the public in general. And it's good for the United States. Okay, if you like the video, click like, subscribe, more in the coming videos.